everybody. I want to get back to our notes and we're going to finish up Unit 3, but we're going to finish it up with the ecology. We already here talking about energy and how we get energy from the ecosystems, and so let's keep talking about the ecosystems. So the first thing you got to go back to is the water cycle. You are very familiar with the water cycle. Well, the whole purpose of the water cycle is to replenish the supply of water through the environment. And of course, water is abiotic. So abiotic means it's non-living. Okay. Some process of the water cycle compose of the evaporation, as you see here, condensation, which we see that happens, precipitation, which of course comes down. Transpiration, again, it's for plants only. So plants do go through this. And what happens, they release water through the stomatas and it goes back into the atmosphere. Respiration, yes, that comes from plants and animals. But what happens with respiration is that every time we breathe, we actually release water molecules. Okay, so that is respiration. Now let's go to another one. This is basically saying cellular respiration and photosynthesis summed up. So this is the carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen cycle. Well, this is where, again, photosynthesis and respiration kind of recycles each other through the atmosphere. So let's just say this is you. This is a very pretty picture of you, isn't it? Well, with you, you breathe out carbon dioxide, right? Now, what does plants need to take in? Well, plants need CO2, and we call that process photosynthesis, right? So plants then take in carbon dioxide, they also take in water, right? And what do they release? Well, they release oxygen back in the atmosphere. And we take what with the oxygen? Well, we need to live, so our body takes in the oxygen. That is the carbon, hydrogen, oxygen cycle. Now, also, how can this be recycled throughout just us doing photosynthesis and respiration? Well, we have geochemical processes which release CO2 in the atmosphere. So you're talking about like volcanoes and erosion. Okay. Um, Burial and decomposition of dead organisms. Basically, when something dies, a human or an animal, um, it decomposes, and when it decomposes, it's already in the ground. And so when it goes in the ground, it converts into fossil fuels, which gives us the carbon underground that we need. So yes, it takes a long time for the cycle to for us to have back our natural resources, but decompositions of organisms that once lived, which we contain carbon, actually goes back into the ground. So human activities, though, we also release CO2 in the atmosphere through mining, through cutting down and burning of trees, and we know that's called deforestation, and as well as we burn fossil fuels. You drive a car or you ride a bus? Yes. So, which ultimately leads to climate change. Now, what about the nitrogen cycle? Well, the nitrogen cycle, everybody does this. Hopefully, you should do it every day. But you ever heard when we say we have cow manure and during the spring you smell it really stinks outside? Well, that's nitrogen fixing bacteria and it's very important to organisms. So what happens is plants get nitrogen from the soil and animals get nitrogen from the plants. But how do they get the nitrogen and stuff? So um, this little deer, he eats the grass, right? Well, it goes inside of him and he poops it. And so, that's what it says, decaying matter and waste. And once he poops it, the bacteria goes through the ground and it produces better grass and fruits and vegetables and everything else. So nitrogen is needed for proteins and nucleic acids, which is for obviously DNA. So, just quick questions. So producers, remember this is just a review. Producers make their own food, which is called an autotroph. All right, if we're talking about a flowering plant, that's an angiosperm. Remember we talked about the water cycle. Transpiration, it takes place through what? The stomata, because the stomata opens up by the guard cells to release gases into the atmosphere. Well, what is the top layer of the leaf called? Right up under the cuticle, the upper epidermis. And the vascular bundle, you have to understand what that is. It's also known as the vein, and that is your xylem and phloem. But let's continue. Now we're going to talk about recycling the matter within the ecosystem. So we just want to kind of do what is ecology, basically. So what is ecology? It's a scientific study among interactions of organisms in their environment. So the interaction between the organism and its environment. Ecology can be the study of individual organisms, a group, or the whole biosphere. And what does bio mean? Life. So the whole sphere of life, and that is obviously known as what? Planet Earth. So first level, um, levels of organization. We're going to start here with the biosphere. So the biosphere is the part of Earth in which life exists, including land, water, air, and atmosphere. So we need to see where all these interactions take place amongst them all. Next, we want to identify what a biome is. Well, a biome is a group of ecosystems that have the same climate and similar communities. So we went from the biosphere to a particular biome. Okay, then we go to an ecosystem, and an ecosystem is a collection of all that organisms live in a particular place along with their environment. So, boom, right? And then we have a community. A community is just now we have different populations that live together in a certain area. So we went from biosphere to biome, the ecosystem to a community. All right. Now, what is a population? A population is the same group, same species that live in the same area. Then, obviously, what is an individual? One organism. So, just to kind of give you an idea, we stay here in North Carolina, and this is just a cheap way of saying it, right? We stay. This is to say this is North Carolina. That would be biosphere. There's a lot of stuff in North Carolina, right? There's a lot of mountains. There's a lot of rivers. There's a lot of animals, bugs. But we particularly stay in Hope County. Hope County has its thing. You know, it's a little bit different than some of the other counties. It's not as city, so it's not really as urban. It's more country, right? So our biome, we do have a lot of trees and stuff. Well, we all have districts, school districts and stuff. Um, so the ecosystem will be your school district. So like if you went to the elementary schools, more or less, each district. So we're gonna break it down. So here's a district. But then let's just say our district, we go to Hope County. So that is our community. There's a lot of different people from here, right? A lot of different races, a lot of different heights, colors, shapes, sizes, and ages. Um, then we have a population. So that's a classroom. So when you come in my classroom, you're my population. You are separated from everything else. So every bug, every roach, every spider, every molecule that has life floating in the air, and you inside the classroom is a population. But if I just take you out, you are an individual.